In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation is honoring decades of memory, service, and sacrifice. Through its Steel Across America tour, the foundation brings an original World Trade Center steel beam to communities across the country as a symbol of sacrifice. To honor the 343 FDNY heroes lost on 9/11, Tunnel to Towers is delivering 343 mortgage-free homes and continuing efforts to end veteran homelessness. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation at T2T.org.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Well, it's only Monday, and this is the first story of the Joe Concha Show, and thanks so much for tuning in. But this is easily already my favorite story of the week, and we got 6 days to go on this sucker. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, Democrat, Congresswoman, a social media darling and also a legacy media darling, has been accused of breaking campaign funding rules by spending nearly $19,000 on a, get this, psychiatrist who advocates ketamine therapy. Oh, this is outstanding. The prominent Democrat politician is said to have hired Dr. Brian Boyle, the chief psychiatrist at a mental health clinic that focuses on, quote, cutting edge, unquote, therapies popular with Hollywood and Wall Street figures. Federal Election Commission, that's the FEC, those records show that her campaign paid the psychiatrist nearly $19,000 in 3 installments between March and October of 2025 for, quote, leadership training and consulting, according to the New York Post. Oh, boy. That is just the greatest thing ever. Because remember, this is a person who continually says we must tax the rich, and there really shouldn't be any billionaires in this country, and the rich need to pay their fair share. Even wore a dress to a $35,000 charity event at the Met Gala that said tax the rich on it. Meanwhile, she does these fight the oligarchy rallies, basically going off on Trump being a fascist and an authoritarian and all these, you know, the usual words that we hear around Hitler and Stalin, all that fun stuff. She flies private to those particular fight the oligarchy rallies, all while screaming that the world will end by 2031. That was her prediction. If that prediction still holds. No one really asked her about that one. Remember that? She said, the world's going to end in 12 years unless we start spending trillions of dollars on climate change. And then she flies private. Oh, boy. But now spending nearly 20 G's on an interventional psychiatrist and specializes in unorthodox methods for treatment such as ketamine infusion therapy. I wonder what leadership she is looking to, learn about, like being president. Because I would say that she would lose 51 states even before this story came out. But let's see if the legacy media follows us the way they should. Because I can guarantee you, just pick any Republican, female lawmaker. Let's say, Nancy Mace. And let's say it was revealed that she was spending nearly $20,000 on a psychiatrist that came from campaign funds. How do you think CNN and MS Now would be treating that story? Wall to wall. Anyway, here's my friend Lisa Booth on the big weekend show this weekend, talking more about this ethics scandal. And boy, it's just Dr. Melfi, but real life. Cut number 17, go.
All right, because AOC could be in some trouble. The New York Post reports that the Congresswoman may have violated federal election law and House ethics rules by misusing nearly $19,000 in campaign cash last year on a psychiatrist known for specializing in ketamine therapy. The National Legal and Policy Center filed a joint complaint with the FEC and the Office of Congressional Conduct, demanding that authorities determine whether the money paid to Dr. Brian Boyle was fraudulently documented as leadership training and consulting. Now, Dr. Boyle is a chief psychiatric officer at Stella Mental Health and is known as the leading authority on ketamine. We have reached out to Congresswoman AOC's office, but we have not heard back yet. So, Kevin,
No, and you're not going to hear back, are you? Oh, man. Just once. Can we have like a halfway decent reporter put a microphone in her face? and say, what is this all about? And why did you spend campaign funds on a psychiatrist? And what do you need a psychiatrist for in the first place? Basic questions. Let's see if this goes away like a fart in the wind or if it's something that actually has some legs. At least the New York Post is doing its homework and Fox News, obviously. Let's see if the rest of our pathetic media does its job. Meanwhile, speaking of AOC and running for president, Axios, with quite the story out this weekend, quote, some top Democrats are quietly debating a fraught question, whether the party's best bet for winning back the presidency in 2028 is to nominate, ding, 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 a man, perhaps a straight, white, Christian man. Whoops, there goes Pete Buttigieg's aspirations for the highest office in the land. Former First Lady Michelle Obama fueled such talk recently, saying the U.S. is, quote, not ready for a woman. Democratic strategists have put it bluntly, with several saying a version of it has to be a white guy, unquote. Oh, all right. So that's the bad taste in your mouth from Kamala's candidacy, it seems. And Donald Trump has won twice, 3 times, depending on who you talk to. And those 2 times that went into the record books, he defeated a woman in Hillary Clinton and obviously Kamala Harris. So I guess, let's see, it's got to be a straight white guy. If that isn't screaming Gavin Newsom, even though, you know, there's some speculation around that just by the way he uses his hands and crosses his legs. I'm just relaying on what some people may say about Gavin. But the point is that, yeah, I think they want the Trojan horse thing, where you just run somebody who seems normal, seems like somebody that they could sell as a moderate. Think Andy Beshear, who's the governor of Kentucky. That's a Democratic governor in a red state. And look, the guy's like watching paint dry whenever he does interviews, but maybe boring wins the day here, and you don't repel all these independent voters, the kind that Trump won in 2024 and sweeping every swing state and winning the popular vote. So, yeah, that's the road that they're going to go down. But there just aren't too many, you know, normal, straight, white Christian men on the Democratic side, right? J.B. Pritzker? No, not much of a bench at all. And whether it's against J.D. Vance or Marco Rubio, depending on if the Iran war is settled, the Strait of Hormuz is open. Remember, this is 2.5, 3 years from now. Yeah, I think that will be a big consideration. And the economy has to, you know, pick up where we have GDP above 4% and we don't have gas prices above $4 a gallon because Trump's poll numbers are slowly drifting down. But this is the pain part of the war. Gas prices go up, oil prices go up, Strait of Hormuz still in flux, and no one quite knowing what the end game is. So for now, Trump's taking a little bit of a hit, but plenty of time to recover. And in the long run, if he vanquishes Iran and we have an ally there in the Middle East, and Venezuela is now working with us and all that oil that's underneath their ground, and Cuba is about to fall, if he could pull off that triad, then yeah, the Republican nominee, Vance or Newsom, will be hard to beat, no question. Meanwhile, speaking of Gavin Newsom, Mrs. Newsom is making Mrs. Tim Walz look sane. You remember her. That's the woman who said that she opened up the windows during the 2020 riots that were burning down Minneapolis. And she said she wanted to smell tires burning because it was such a sentimental moment. That's weird. Or when you get married on the anniversary of the Tiananmen Square massacre, so you could have a date that you could remember easily. That's weird. All right. Now, Mrs. Newsom, though, is somehow taking weird to another level. Here's cut number 9, and here she's talking to the insufferable Jen Psaki on MS Now, talking about how she took her kids to Alabama and Florida so they could learn all about, no, not SEC football, but racism and sexism. This is cut number 9. Go.
You took your 4 kids on this trip. You're here in Alabama now. Why was it important to you to take them on this trip to red states and learn about the history in our country?
That's a great question. Well, I don't think, or I know for a fact that we don't get all of this history in our schools. And it's part of, enlivening them, building their curiosity, expanding their hearts, their empathy, so that they themselves can be the change they wish to see in the world and recognize that, we have work to do and that we have healing to do. And so that they can be, use their voices to stand up and speak out when they see pain and suffering and bullying and racism and misogyny around them. And
you want them to see it so that they know.
I do. I'm a truth seeker. They need to know the truth.
So what better place to take your kids to learn about all this racism and sexism stuff than Alabama and Florida? Oh, I mean, I'm pretty sure in California you could have just kept your kids there and they could study that as much as they want to. Ample examples in the Golden State, which again has the highest poverty rate in the country, highest unemployment rate in the country. The biggest exodus is out of California more than any other state in the country, despite having climate and coastline. Mr. Newsom not doing a very good job there, but he wants to run for president. And according to that Axios story, if the game plan is for a straight white Christian man, well, that narrows it down to him and I guess John Fetterman. But Fetterman would be much better off running as a Republican because he just seems to agree with Trump seemingly on everything. Doesn't vote that way, however, but he's good for a soundbite, particularly on this show. And here he is going off in his own party, talking about how, hey, you might want to start funding the government so DHS is funded because we got this thing called the World Cup coming up, and that's going to be happening starting in June all across the United States. And if the DHS still isn't funded, or you're losing all these people who are taking their pensions early and retiring, well, again, this is the biggest event in the world. Obviously, a very rich target for terrorists. And if we don't have a DHS or we have a depleted one, that's a big problem. That's exactly what Fetterman is saying here. Cut number 8, go.
Getting harder and harder to justify this, extending the shutdown. I mean, I even brought up something even more accessible to, an average American, like the soccer fans. There's millions, and now preparations are significantly behind. And now we're 77 days out, and this is still shut down. And you have millions of people from abroad coming, and millions of Americans joining these two. And it's like if you've seen the kinds of chaos at the airports, I can't even imagine now. You have millions coming here for World Cup, and we are sitting on our hands.
Does that make sense to you? It makes zero sense, as John Fetterman making a lot of sense once again, but Democrats will not fund the government. Fortunately, Donald Trump signs an executive order. Now TSA agents are being paid. And boy, there are some folks out there on the blue team who are not happy about this one bit. Meanwhile, as a matter of fact, let's play Jim Himes, right? He's from Connecticut. And he is now calling what Trump is doing just by paying these poor people who weren't making a lot of money in the first place, as far as TSA agents, getting them paid through an executive order. He thinks that's illegal, and Dems are going to fight Trump on this tooth and nail to make sure these people suffer for as long as it takes so Democrats can treat shutting down the government as a political football ahead of the midterms. This is cut number 14. Go.
What did Democrats get out of this standoff?
Yeah, well, Margaret, the standoff is not done yet, right? The president is illegally paying, apparently, TSA agents. You had the Senate, as you pointed out with Mr. Homan, pass a bipartisan bill unanimously in the United States Senate to say, look, let's fund everybody else and let's deal with this thorny issue about ICE. And then you had the Republican House say, hell no, we're not doing that.
Oh, it's illegal. Okay, so boy. The Democrats know now they're in big trouble because they will rightly get the blame for this. And if they're mad about TSA agents getting paid because Trump used the power of the pen through an executive order to get them paid, and they're fighting that, good luck dying on that hill. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Where liberalism is a no-go. The Joe Concha Show, weekday edition. Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
Born on America's darkest day of 9/11, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation has been helping America's heroes ever since. Heroes like FDNY Lieutenant Edward J. McDonough Jr., a Marine Corps veteran and lifelong public servant. After 9/11, McDonough served at Ground Zero. He later lost his life to a related cancer, leaving behind his wife Kimberly and their 5 children. Tunnel to Towers honored his sacrifice by paying off the family's mortgage. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org today.
I didn't think the pain from the shingles rash would affect simple, everyday tasks like bathing, getting dressed, or even walking around. I was wrong. Though not everyone at risk will develop it, 99% of people over the age of 50 already have the virus that causes shingles, and it could reactivate at any time. I developed it, and the blistering rash lasted for weeks. Don't learn the hard way, like I did. Talk to your doctor or pharmacist today. Sponsored by GSK.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Hey, welcome back, everybody. So did you see the No Kings protests over the weekend? Yep, they did another one, which is the height of irony. It is so pure you could snort it, where you have a party that hasn't had a real primary going back to, 2008. Hillary installed, Biden basically installed, Kamala definitely installed. And we're hearing from those who vote Democrat that they don't want any kings in this party, in this country. Yet they keep talking about this as if they have the moral high ground when, again, you literally install your presidential candidates without too much say from the public. Anyway, you got to hear some of these sound bites from this over the weekend because Robert De Niro, great actor, right? I saw Heat recently. That's first movie he ever did with Pacino. Even though they were both in Godfather 2, those were different times, right? Where he's playing a young Vito Corleone, and obviously you have De Niro as Michael, but they're taking place 40 years apart, basically, as the movie lays this out. Genius as far as a sequel, and many argued Godfather 2 is the best sequel of all time. Anyway, here is De Niro in, definitely on the back nine and probably approaching the 18th hole, having trouble reading the No Kings script that he was handed. This is cut number 6. Go.
How can this be happening? Look at the power of the No Kings national uprising.
Huh? What?
Look at the power of the No Kings national uprising. Afraid of Trump? Please. No, they should be more afraid of us.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, take 3. Boy, I hope there isn't the Irishman 2 because De Niro definitely losing his fastball as we just saw there. And enough already with the whole, this is all this guy does. Insufferable. Maybe you could replace Colbert on CBS at 11:30. Anyway, here's a No Kings wine grandma saying that freedom of speech is now under attack, and they have to stand up to Trump here by literally protesting and exercising their right to free speech. You can't make it up. Cut number 7, go.
What does being out here do?
Well, I think a lot of times in the current administration, they maybe tried to silence us and not allowed to have a free voice of how we feel about certain things. And I think with all of us out here and making everybody understand that we do have the freedoms and we are allowed to say whatever we like to say, it's part of our constitutional right, and I still believe in the Constitution.
So if we're following along with that correctly, she says that the freedom of speech is under attack by Trump. And then there she is at a rally doing an interview on national television and then attending these rallies and saying whatever she wants. In other words, this whole thing, wow, we're going to lose our democracy every day that Trump is in office. Well, does it seem like anybody's losing their democracy? Media, I don't see anybody being shut down like we're living in Pyongyang. Plenty of anti-Trump books out there, that's certainly for sure. So, again, this whole thing, the freedom of speech is under attack. I don't think it's ever been more vibrant, quite frankly, especially in a world of social media. Anyway, before we go to break, let's hear from goofy 80s sitcom dad Tim Walz, the governor of Minnesota. And here he is pledging his allegiance, not to people that were born here originally or, good old white-blooded Americans, red-blooded Americans. It's red-blooded, right? Yes, red-blooded. And instead, he's pledging his allegiance to Somalis living in his state. Cut number 10, go.
And I will add a special thank you and a special acknowledgement that we will never leave the side of our Somali Minnesotans.
Oh, they cheer.
Here's our pledge to you. Our Somali Minnesotans, your great-grandchildren will still be here when that orange clown is in the dustbin of history. You will be here.
So he is pledging his allegiance to the people that stole $10 billion from his state? Just the fact that this guy was a few swing states away from being a heartbeat from the presidency. Boy, we dodged a nuclear missile with that guy. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This is Concha at Night. Back with so much more in just a moment.
Hi, I'm Jim. I'm not an actor, just a guy living with prostate cancer. My wife and I face each day head on. We asked my doctor about Xtandi enzalutamide.
Xtandi 40 milligram tablets treats men with prostate cancer that has spread to other parts of the body and responds to a medical or surgical treatment to lower testosterone. Xtandi may cause serious side effects: seizure, a brain condition called PRES, allergic reactions, heart disease that can lead to death, falls and bone fractures, swallowing problems, or choking that can lead to death. Stop Xtandi and get medical help at once if your face, tongue, lip, or throat starts swelling. Tell your doctor at once if you faint, have a seizure, quickly worsening headache, decreased alertness, confusion, vision problems, chest pain or discomfort, or shortness of breath. Xtandi can cause harm to an unborn baby or miscarriage. Use birth control during and 3 months after Xtandi. Common side effects include muscle and joint pain, feeling unusually tired, hot flashes, constipation, less appetite, diarrhea, high blood pressure, bleeding, falls, fractures, and headache.
Visit Xtandi.com to watch my story.
It's the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, what can you say about Tiger Woods? I don't know. I'm selfish, and I wanted to see the guy at least one more time at the Masters. He wasn't going to win. He hasn't played competitively in years. He plays that like indoor virtual golf, not quite the same thing as walking 18 holes over 4 days. And it's just hard to believe that we're now nearly 30 years removed from when he first won the Masters back in 1997. No Masters was ever watched more than that one. That was his first as a professional, and he won going away, and it seemed like the sky was the limit, and he was just racking up major after major. And Jack Nicklaus, he came within 4 majors of catching, and whoever wins the most majors is the greatest of all time, and that has to be the Golden Bear and Jack Nicklaus. But then suddenly, he had that confrontation with his wife, whatever you want to call it, where he was just driving on a sleepy road near his home back in, I want to say this was like 2009, and then hit a fire hydrant. Apparently was on some sort of Ambien and some other concoction where he was kind of stuck in the car and she had to take a club and get him out of there. Well, that was the first sign. And then he was able to come back, kind of, but the injury started racking up, especially with his back and with his knee. And then 2021, he's on his way to a charity event and rolls his SUV down a cliff, basically, and could have died if he wasn't in such a fortified kind of car. But that took many, many months for him to come back from as well. And now we have this DUI in Jupiter, Florida. I'm in Boca Raton right now doing this show from, and it's just unbelievable that 2:00 in the afternoon and your car gets flipped over. I mean, what do you got to be on? So it's a shame because we would have liked to have seen Tiger. He's in his 50s now at this point, but that doesn't seem to be much of a hindrance these days with the equipment that people have in golf. And obviously Tiger always in good shape, but yeah, he can't play now, obviously. I mean, it'll just be one big nightmare as far as the press hounding him, following him around, and those sort of distractions. I think he's going to want to lay low for a while and get the help that he needs. I think that's the most important thing here at this point. Meanwhile, Cory Booker wants to be president really, really bad. You may remember he ran back in 2020 and it lasted a couple of months before people started calling him Dime Store Obama, Timu Obama, just put some sort of cheap version of Obama together. And that's Cory Booker, my senator from New Jersey. Anyway, here he is talking about how he's on a book tour, because everybody writes a book these days, I suppose, when they're running for president. He's saying we need new leadership to unify the country. And Cory Booker could just be that guy to bring everybody together. This is cut number 4. Go.
I really believe this is a time where we need new leadership, new moral imagination to pull our country together, because the challenges on the horizon aren't just this current crisis that Trump has caused. He shouldn't be the main character of our narrative right now. We have real challenges from new technologies like AI and robotics, new challenges that we need more unity in our country and a reminder that we are not each other's enemies. In fact, our ability to find common ground has always been our greatest hope.
Well, that's funny because Cory Booker once went on a late night show hosted by Seth Meyers on NBC, and Mr. Unity once said that he wanted to punch Donald Trump, this was during Trump's first term, in the face. Yeah, that screams unity, doesn't it? Cut number 5, go.
Donald Trump is a guy who, you understand, he hurts you, and my testosterone sometimes makes me want to feel like punching him, and which would be bad for this elderly, out of shape man that he is. If I did that,
Oh, okay. So you see what kind of a phony that Booker is. And again, he'll run and he'll get his sound bites. He's a cheesy performance artist, which is perfect for some quarters of cable news, but he can not win. And as I said, that Axios story, pretty interesting. The fact that basically Democratic, the real power brokers want a white Christian guy, and that ain't Cory Booker. Anyway, I don't know if you heard about this, but Pennsylvania is pulling its Women's History Month. For this reason, I'll just tease it that way. This is John Roberts, Fox News. Cut number 3, go.
A battle over biology in battleground Pennsylvania, where state Democrats withdrew a House resolution honoring March as National Women's Month. All it took was a Republican lawmaker asking for a simple definition of what a woman is. The vote was expected to be quick and largely symbolic, but it was pulled after this awkward 25-second break.
Madam Speaker, this amendment is very straightforward and clear. It defines what a woman actually is, because we do know what that is. Thank you.
The resolution is temporarily over.
Now, there you go. They pulled the whole thing. The Republican who put forth the amendment says defining a woman as having double X chromosomes should not be controversial.
But somehow in purple Pennsylvania it is. This is almost as good as the University of Southern California, the former home of OJ, pulling a gubernatorial debate that it was going to host on campus because there were just too many darn white people running for governor of California. And since there wasn't the type of diversity that I guess the university wants to see as far as gubernatorial candidates to take Gavin Newsom's job, then they just canceled the whole thing. It's really remarkable. And again, what's happening in California? Oh, you reap what you sow, because Democrats thought they were being cute by making up this rule there that said, okay, when the primaries happen in a gubernatorial race, the top 2 candidates advance. And in this case, since there's so many candidates, especially on the Democratic side, right now, Chad Hilton, my former colleague at Fox, and Sheriff Chad Blanco are leading, and they're both, ding, 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 Republicans. So we could end up having a situation where in California, it's a Republican versus a Republican. And either way, no matter who wins, Hilton or Blanco, you have a Republican governor in a blue state, because you just had to screw with the rules now, didn't you, idiots? Anyway, so Chris Van Hollen, you may remember him. He's a senator from Maryland, and he's the guy that flew down to see the Maryland Man, right? Kilmar Abrego Garcia. You may remember him. He's the guy who beat his wife and was an, MS-13 gang member, gangbanger, and, well, also has now been accused and probably will be charged with human trafficking. And yet Democrats went to the mat for this guy because they say, well, he shouldn't be deported. He's just a nice dad just trying to make it work here in the United States. Well, it was actually refreshing. All right, I will praise legacy media when it earns it. In this case, Jonathan Karl, ABC News, pressed Van Hollen on Sunday in terms of holding up paying TSA workers. And this is the way you're supposed to do journalism. Just because they have a D next to their name doesn't mean it should be a cream puff walk in the park. And you're going to see and hear that, yeah, for once we had somebody do their job. Cut number 11, go.
We're not holding up all of the money for all the Department of Homeland Security. That's just a false statement.
Yeah,
we have said repeatedly, repeatedly, we should fund TSA, we should fund FEMA, we should fund the Coast Guard. We are not prepared to give ICE another $10 billion on top of the monies they already have and are using in many of these lawless operations.
Fighting over that additional $10 billion, you are holding up the rest of Department of Homeland Security.
We're not holding it up.
Exactly.
I mean, you're saying, no, John, we're not holding it up. We have now voted 10 times.
Right, but you're holding up unless it doesn't include money for ICE. That's just a fact.
It's a fact, and it was good to see him follow up like that. Here's the problem.
There's Brian Kilmeade, who has a show on WABC as well. We could get out of there, Carlos. That's fine.
They're going to have some type of IDs on the uniform.
Anyway, so that's the whole ball game here. ICE is funded through 2029 through the big, beautiful bill that was signed into law last year. And Democrats are holding up paying TSA members because an additional $10 billion on top of all the billions they're already getting, they say cannot go to ICE now at this point. It's just fighting Trump for the sake of fighting Trump. There's no real plan to this. They did it back in December when they shut down the government over Obamacare, and they wanted all this money for subsidies for Obamacare, and they shut down the government over it. And now I guess that's gone away, and now they're focusing on ICE instead because they see that as a winning issue for the midterms. But most Americans are still supportive of ICE, and obviously every poll I've seen, ABC, Fox, CBS, 60% of Americans believe in deporting all illegals in the country, not just criminals, but anybody who entered the country illegally should be expelled. And that is the job of ICE. And that is what Democrats are fighting for at this point in terms of just abolishing ICE altogether. I mean, you hear many of them talk about that. It's defund the police all over again. And it's a whole bowl of wrong. Meanwhile, Scott Jennings over on CNN, speaking of refreshing, talks here about what Dems are really against in this shutdown, and it's not pretty. Cut number 15, go.
We can all agree, though, that this is highly irresponsible. We're at war, and we have the thing called Homeland Security closed. I know it was a long time ago, but let's all go back and remember how this started. Democrats don't want to have any funding or enforcement of our immigration laws. Yeah. For this fiscal year, Department of Homeland Security has been shut down 50% of the time. Highly irresponsible, and in both cases, it was Democrats, frankly, just throwing a fit about immigration. That's it. They care more about no immigration enforcement than people moving around the country.
Let's just be clear.
That's exactly right. And of course, the moderator has to step in because that's what CNN moderators do and completely disagree with Jennings instead of being, a moderator. Anyway. He's right about this. I didn't realize that was the stat, though. In this fiscal year, the government has been shut down for 50% of the time. And guess who votes against opening it up almost every time? Democrats. And Chuck Schumer knows that if he gives in here, then that is the end of Chuck Schumer as far as being the Senate minority leader. But, when you're 76 years old, maybe it's just time to say, all right, it's been a good run. And that's that. Dan Hurley, who is a tremendous coach, taking UConn to the championship in 2023, 2024, winning both times and both times convincingly. Well, obviously, you've probably seen the clip and the shot heard around the world on Sunday afternoon. UConn, Duke. Duke was leading the entire game. In fact, was up 19 points at one point in the second half. UConn climbed their way back in against that number one seed in Duke. And end of the game, I mean, just incredible that all Duke had to do was just dribble the ball and get fouled. And that probably would have put the game away. Instead, got cute, tried to pass the ball above half court, ball gets stolen, and then this kid, freshman, hits a three-pointer that wasn't exactly near the three-point line. It was probably closer to half court, but swished it, and UConn is now back in the Final Four for the third time in 4 years. And here is Dan Hurley talking about, he was asked, are you too tough on your players? Because he does get up in their face. There's a little bit of Bobby Knight, I guess, in Hurley. He's not choking anybody, of course. But here's what he had to say about, when you look back on the coaches and the teachers that you had, you'll never guess which ones you remember most. This is cut 16. Go.
What do you think it says about the culture that people see, yelling or hard coaching and somehow think that's a problem?
Yeah, I just think that's, society. We've gotten soft in a lot of ways. I think with, with trying to develop young people, I think young people, the teachers and coaches that impact their lives the most are not the teachers and coaches that gave them a grade they didn't deserve. I mean, you remember the teachers and coaches that pushed you to your maximum, that pushed you beyond your comfort level, that got the most out of you, that English teacher that, made you do the work and the tests were hard and you had to study hard. And just think the same thing applies to coaching. I feel like I got a responsibility. I coach 18, 19, 20-year-old men. There's a lot that I got to instill in them. There's a lot of discipline. There's a lot of accountability. There's a lot of commitment that I've got to instill in them to prepare them for the real world. The real world is tough. It's cruel. You got to be equipped. So on the flip side of how I'm driving them and pushing them to be the best that they can be and prepare them for life, I'm also I got a very close bond with my players. I love them. They know I love them. And a lot of our relationship that the media doesn't see or times that we spend, together laughing, joking, making fun of each other. You don't see that part of me. You unfortunately just sometimes see the monster.
The monster, but a monster that many of his players will be thankful for, especially, for instance, if you played for Hurley in 2023 and you're still with him as a senior now, you could end up winning 3 national championships in 4 years, which Duke won back-to-back. I think it was 91-92, beat Kansas and then Michigan. But I don't remember 3 in 4 years. You got to go back to UCLA in the 70s, quite frankly. So something special happening in Storrs, Connecticut once again. And the Hurley family is just, what a legacy. Bob Hurley Sr. Was a coach, I believe, at St. Anthony High School. That's in Jersey City. And that was the winningest program when I was growing up for basketball. And they played in this tiny little gym. It wasn't, a glamorous place to play. But then obviously Bobby went on to win those 2 national championships I talked about earlier at Duke. And Danny played at Seton Hall and now is a tremendous coach. Bobby is coaching out at Arizona State, I believe, but I'm not sure if that is still happening. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. I'll have to do my homework on that one. This is Concha at Night. We wrap this puppy up in just a moment.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition.
Joe Concha.
Sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation.
It's tax season, and at LifeLock, we know you're tired of numbers. But here's a big one you need to hear. Billions. That's the amount of money in refunds the IRS has flagged for possible identity fraud. Now here's another big number, 100 million. That's how many data points LifeLock monitors every second. If your identity is stolen, we'll fix it guaranteed. One last big number, save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast for the threats you can't control. Terms apply.
Hey there, it's me, John Stamos, in partnership with Cologuard. And a little birdie told me you're over 45. Listen, that's not old, it's really not. But it's an important age. If you're at average risk, that's when you start screening for colon cancer. And look, it's okay to be nervous, but it's not okay to ignore your own health. It's time to see if the Cologuard test can be an option for you to get screened. All right, I'm glad we had this little chat.
He's at war with woke.
Joe Concha
thinks liberals are a joke.
Joe Concha.
This is the Joe Concha Show, weekday edition, sponsored by the Tunnel to Towers Foundation. Here's Joe Concha.
Welcome back, everybody. So, repeating our top story of the night, that AOC may be involved in a big ethics scandal after it was revealed that $19,000 came out of her campaign so she could hire a psychiatrist. I don't even know where to go with this. We all know she's crazy, but she couldn't just pay with her own money. What do you do? This stuff is so easy to track. So we'll have to see where this goes. But again, the bias and omission will be on full display because AOC will be protected because she's a potential presidential candidate and she's young and checks off a lot of boxes. And I'd love to see where this goes ultimately. I just find it just amazing that this is the same person that flies private to all of her rallies and then screams about climate change. That should be the disqualifier right there. Meanwhile, interesting day on Fox News where Marie Harf was on the outnumbered couch where I've sat many times and kind of takes a very interesting tact here as far as the topic of men playing against women in sports comes up and actually says she really doesn't care if biological men are pummeling biological women in sports like boxing. It was just kind of a bizarre day, or at least segment on Outnumbered. But you'll have to listen to it for yourself. Cut number 18, go.
Harris, my point is, I do think that Donald Trump used this to great effect by preying on people's fears of trans people. And look, I think sometimes people do have questions. Who should play what sports? Who should get married? I don't think that all the questions are necessarily coming from a bad place.
This is an 80-20 issue, but remain on the 20% side and see how it works out.
It's about why are we so scared of trans people?
It's about providing clarity. We're scared of biological men pummeling on women. Wait. I don't want to get this women. Do you want a biological man wrestling a woman? Do you want a biological man spiking a volleyball at a woman?
Honestly, I don't care.
Whoa.
I genuinely don't care. There are co-ed sports being played at the elementary school level across this country today.
Oh, man. Your argument is that because co-ed sports are being played on the elementary school level, then we should allow men to box women on the college level or the Olympic level, or swim against them, play volleyball against them? Well, one poor girl at a Division III school literally suffered brain damage from a ball being spiked so hard on her head. I mean, this is dangerous stuff. And the I don't care if men play against women in sports argument. And hey, they do it in second grade, so that makes it okay. I mean, that's a take. That's definitely a take, no question. Anyway, Stephen A. Smith, who, again, another person who may run for president on the Democratic side, here he is on Zoran Memdani, the new mayor of New York, now in office for 3 very long months. And Stephen A., as usual, does not hold back. Cut number 1, go.
Look at what happened in New York City. No disrespect, but do we really think that Zoran Memdani was the most qualified candidate to be mayor of New York City? Come on now, we know better. I'm wishing him well. I'm not being disrespectful. He's smart, he's sharp, he's quick on his feet. I'm not disrespecting him in any way. But he had never done anything. You got a governor, a former governor, who was a 3-term governor, coasting to his fourth before the scandal hit. You boot him out of office. He's qualified to get your support for 3 terms, en route to 4, to run the state. But you don't want to run in the city. And you're going to hand the reins to a 33-year-old
he's also a communist.
Okay.
I mean, and I'm not saying that as a slur.
All right.
I'm saying that's his political view. It's a view you're allowed to have in this country, and people are allowed to vote for it.
So you have people that don't mind that, and they want that in this country. And unfortunately, if you're a Chuck Schumer or some of the old guards, you're at the mercy of all of that, still trying to stay in office, knowing that you got voters out there that would support that ahead of you.
Now, as you heard, Bill Maher was also in that clip. That was Stephen A. on Maher's show Friday night in Los Angeles. Very, very liberal audience applauding the fact that he said that Memdani has never accomplished anything in his life and he has no business running the city, and thought that Andrew Cuomo, our colleague now at WABC, would have been the better choice. And, well, when you're a communist and you get 51% of the vote in New York City, that's disturbing is the only word that is currently coming to mind. Anyway, you got to hear this. I mean, this is just really amazing. Great job, me, finding this clip. Here is Donald Trump, 39 years ago, talking to Barbara Walters on ABC about Iran. And let's just say the guy has been very consistent on his perspective when it comes to what to do with this country that has been a menace for, well, going back to 1979 and to this current day. Cut number 13, go.
Because I'm running for the presidency. I'm here because I'm personally tired of seeing this great country of ours being ripped off.
But as far as Trump is concerned, our allies are only part of the problem. The real culprit is Iran.
Why couldn't we go in and take over some of their oil, which is along the sea?
How would you do that? Would you send in the Marines? Would you take a chance in a war?
Let them have Iran. You take their oil. That's what
How?
How?
I mean, do we want a war? What do you mean we take their oil?
You go in.
How do we go in?
You're going to have a war by being weak.
Okay, how do we go in? What do we do?
Excuse me. Yeah? You're going to have a war. And it's going to start in the Middle East.
What if the Soviet Union said, you do this to Iran, we're going to come in?
I don't believe they'd do it. The next time Iran attacks this country, go in and grab one of their big oil installations. And I mean grab it and keep it. And get back your losses, because this country has lost plenty because of Iran.
You mean like Karg Island? Go in and grab that? And he's right. At the time, they were the Soviets, and Trump predicted that the Russians wouldn't do anything if we went to war with Iran. And sure enough, they're sitting this one out. Like, many people thought, this can be World War III. China and Russia are going to come to Iran's aid. Nope, has not happened. Anyway, this is Joe Concha. This has been Concha at Night. Thanks so much for joining us. We're back tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern Time on WABC Radio in New York and on stations around the country. Until then, 2 words for you. Bye-bye.
In this 25th anniversary year of September 11th, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation continues to honor America's heroes. Heroes like Fire Lieutenant Michael Wells, who was inspired by 9/11 to serve his community. After 14 dedicated years of service, he lost his battle with occupational cancer, leaving behind his wife, Katie, and their 3 children. Tunnel to Towers honored Lieutenant Wells by paying off the family's mortgage in recognition of his sacrifices. Donate $11 monthly and amplify your impact with a car or land donation. Go to T2T.org.